I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery.
The day began like any other inside the quiet halls of Adelaide Cottage, but a single routine checkup would soon shatter that calm. Behind closed doors, what doctors discovered sent shock waves through the royal household and thrust Prince William into the most frightening race of his life. As Catherine fought to stay composed, the medical team uncovered a situation far more serious than anyone had expected. This was the moment everything changed, when strength, love, and fear collided in the soft morning light that crept through the curtains, painting the walls in pale gold. Princess Catherine stirred beneath the covers, listening to the familiar sounds of home. A door creaking, small feet padding across wooden floors. Her children were waking. She rose with practiced grace, slipped into her robe, and descended to the kitchen, moving quietly across the cool tiles. This was her favorite part of the day, a sanctuary before the world's demands intruded, where she was simply a mother. She pulled eggs from the refrigerator, set a pan on the stove, and worked through her morning routine with gentle rhythm. George wandered in first, hair messy and eyes rubbing sleep away. Charlotte followed, bouncing with boundless energy, her ribbon undone, which Kate quickly fixed as her daughter chattered about dreams. Louis arrived last, dragging his favorite stuffed animal. Kate lifted him into his seat, kissed his head, and turned back to the stove, flipping eggs with practiced ease until a sharp twist in her side made her pause. The discomfort had been recurring for weeks, a persistent visitor she had dismissed as stress or fatigue, yet now it demanded attention. She loaded the plates, carried them to the table, and watched her children eat, savoring the warmth of these small, precious moments. William entered, kissed her cheek, poured coffee, and as she filled glasses of juice, the pain returned, sharper this time. He noticed immediately, his concern unmistakable. She brushed it off with a smile, but William insisted she keep the medical checkup she had postponed repeatedly. Seeing the worry etched in his eyes, the same expression he wore when their children were unwell, Kate realized he had been silently watching her push through the discomfort all along. She nodded, agreeing to the appointment, and William's grip on her hand conveyed silent support as the children remained blissfully unaware. Amid small disputes and sticky fingers, Kate kept moving, smiling through the fatigue that ran deep in her bones, while William tried to stay calm, though both felt that something undeniable had changed, a shift whose meaning would soon be understood far from Adelaide Cottage, behind guarded hospital doors. The private medical wing of the hospital, tucked away for discretion and quiet care, felt unusually still that morning as Dr. Marcus Aldridge reviewed charts near the nurses' station. A tall man with silver hair and steady hands, he had seen nearly everything in his 30-year career, yet even he could sense when something was off. When word came that Princess Catherine had arrived, he straightened his coat and walked down the polished corridor, his shoes clicking softly. Through the waiting room window, he saw her sitting with perfect posture, hands folded neatly, offering a warm smile as she thanked him for making time and apologized for rescheduling. Her composure was flawless, but to Dr. Aldridge's trained eyes, subtle signs betrayed her discomfort. The pale hint in her skin, the tension around her eyes, the careful way she drew each breath. On the examination table, she explained the discomfort had come and gone for weeks, persistent but not severe, and laughed it off, though he noticed she downplayed some details. Routine scans were ordered, and Kate moved smoothly to the imaging room, though a fleeting hesitation and a brief support against the wall did not escape him. The machinery hummed as images appeared on the monitor, first normal, then a density where none should exist. Dr. Aldridge's brows knitted, and he adjusted the contrast, studied the images from every angle, feeling the rhythm of the beeping shift in a way that made his jaw tighten. When Kate emerged, still smiling, he suggested returning to the examination room, calm but firm, and explained that further tests were necessary. Her smile faltered, and she sat up straighter, hands gripping the edge of the table as he described the unusual density, emphasizing that while it was nothing to panic about, it required immediate attention. Nurses moved with quiet precision, preparing paperwork, equipment, and blood work, while Dr. Aldridge gave clear, unwavering instructions. Kate complied with each procedure, her face still composed but her mind racing through unspoken possibilities. The morning stretched into the afternoon, the quiet medical wing growing heavier with anticipation, and in brief moments alone between tests, her gracious smile had faded entirely as she stared at the wall, processing the gravity of what had just begun to reveal itself. Dr. Aldridge studied the new images with two other specialists, their low voices and careful gestures confirming his growing concern. The additional tests had not eased his fears but reinforced them. He thought about Princess Catherine, the mother of 3 who had arrived that morning insisting this was nothing, and about the conversation he would soon have, the words he would need to choose with care. The steady beeping of the monitors and the practiced movements of the nurses could not mask the shift in the atmosphere. What had begun as a routine checkup had become something far more serious. Yet the most critical discovery would come not from the seasoned doctor, but from the youngest nurse in the wing, Emma Chun, who had been on the job for only 8 months. At 26, she still felt the weight of responsibility every time she handled a patient, and that morning, assigned to Princess Catherine's case, nerves had already tightened around her. Sitting at the computer in the quiet adjacent room, Emma pulled up the latest scans, expecting routine images she could review with ease. But the moment the image fully loaded, she froze. Her eyes traced lines and shadows that told a story she did not want to read, and she leaned closer, blinking, hoping to be mistaken. Medical training demanded calm and objectivity, yet her hands shook, knuckles white, and her heart pounded so loudly she feared someone might hear it. She pushed back from the desk, rolling her chair and feeling lightheaded, steadied herself against the wall, and reached for the phone with trembling fingers, dialing the extension for Dr. Aldridge twice before connecting. When his voice came through, the words tumbled out of her mouth, uneven and urgent. He needed to see the scan immediately. She could not explain what she saw, it was too terrible, but insisted he come at once. Hanging up, she froze again, staring at the glowing image, before realizing she could not leave Kate alone. Smoothing her uniform and forcing her face into neutrality, she entered the examination room, where Catherine sat on the edge of the table, smiling and appearing more relaxed. Kate asked if everything was all right, and Emma nodded too quickly, too forcefully, assuring her the doctor would arrive momentarily. But Kate's perceptive gaze caught the distress Emma failed to hide, and when she asked again if something was wrong, Emma could only shake her head and mumble about double-checking results, her voice betraying the gravity of what she had just discovered. The room suddenly felt different, thinner, colder somehow, and Kate wrapped her arms around herself, though the temperature had not changed. She watched Emma fidget near the door, glancing repeatedly toward the corridor as if willing someone to appear. Kate tried to steady her breathing, repeating reassuring thoughts like a prayer. This was probably nothing, a minor infection or inflammation, easily treated. But deep down, instinct told her something had shifted. She could feel it in the sudden tension, in the way the young nurse avoided her gaze. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, fast and urgent, and Dr. Aldridge appeared in the doorway, his face grave. Behind him came 2 specialists, their presence immediately signaling that this was far from routine. Kate sat up straighter, hands gripping the examination table, color draining from her face as she looked from one serious expression to another, searching for reassurance she could not find. Dr. Aldridge stepped forward, drawing a deep breath, while the other doctors positioned themselves near the computer, adjusting displays and taking notes, their focus intense. The room felt impossibly small, crowded with unspoken fears. Kate's composed exterior cracked, revealing the frightened woman beneath, and she asked him directly to tell her what they had found. No softening, no preparation, just the truth. The senior physician paused, glancing at his colleagues and then back at her. The moment stretched heavy with implications that would change everything. Emma's hands trembled as she watched, realizing this was far from routine, that this was the moment when normal life stopped and something else began. Far from Adelaide Cottage, in a meeting room at Windsor Castle, Prince William sat surrounded by the usual sounds of official business, papers rustling and voices discussing schedules. His mind drifted to Kate and the appointment she had finally kept that morning, hoping for news that would allow her to rest easy. When his phone vibrated, he glanced down, and his chest tightened at the sender, Dr. Aldridge's office. The message was calm, yet urgent, a tone that left no doubt something serious had happened. William rose abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor, eyes turning toward him as he mumbled a hurried apology, explaining he had a family matter he needed to attend immediately, a silent dread pressing on him as he rushed out. Aware that every second now mattered, William's heart pounded as he grabbed his phone and strode toward the door, his security detail falling in step behind him. His mind raced. What had they found? Why now? Kate had only gone in for routine scans. Routine? The word felt hollow, meaningless. The car waited outside, and he climbed in, barely registering the driver's greeting, instructing them simply, "Go to the private medical wing fast." The countryside blurred past the windows, normal and peaceful, while inside William felt time fracture into something painful and slow. Memories of Kate wincing that morning in the kitchen flashed through his mind, of the countless times she had brushed off concern with a smile, always putting others first. Weeks ago, when she had moved more carefully after an event, he had wanted to press further, but she had laughed it off, changing the subject to George's football match. Each memory now felt like a warning he had failed to heed. Traffic slowed, lights lingered, and every second stretched impossibly long. His phone buzzed repeatedly, ignored. Nothing mattered except getting to Kate. Finally, the private medical wing appeared. William exited the car, moving quickly through the quiet reception area, shoes echoing in the empty corridors, past the nurse gesturing toward a door where Dr. Aldridge awaited. Outside, the world continued, but inside, everything had shifted. Kate sat alone, small in the chair beside the examination table, hands trembling slightly in her lap, strength still present but fragile. William crossed the room in 3 steps and held her, wrapping his arms around her as she pressed her face to his shoulder, releasing some of the tension she had carried. When she finally looked at the screen displaying the images of her own body, the abstract shapes and shadows made her stomach churn. The specialist pointed out areas that should have looked normal, but did not, explaining risks and next steps. Part of Kate's mind stayed analytical, asking about size, spread, and prognosis, while another part screamed in raw fear. This was happening, this was real, her body betraying her. William asked about treatment, steady but tinged with worry. Dr. Aldridge assured him the outlook was good with proper care, though treatment would be difficult, with uncomfortable days and moments of uncertainty. Kate's voice was quiet but insistent as she asked about timing. When treatment could start, how long it would last, when life might return to normal. Her mind drifted back to Adelaide Cottage. The kitchen that morning felt like a lifetime ago, a simpler time when the biggest worry had been whether Lewis would eat his eggs. George, observant and curious, would notice something was wrong. Charlotte, brave and caring, would try to help, wanting to be strong for her mother. And little Louis, so young, would be confused by limitations she might soon face. Her heart ached at the thought of their worry, their innocence, and then, with a sudden, crushing clarity, one thought forced everything else aside. She might not get to see them grow up. This irregularity inside her threatened not just Kate's comfort, but their entire future. All the moments she had taken for granted suddenly felt fragile and precious. William sensed the shift in her and turned to meet her eyes, and in that silent exchange, they shared everything: the fear, the uncertainty, the determination to fight. Moisture gathered in William's eyes, though he refused to let tears fall, and Kate realized she was doing the same, holding on, staying strong. The doctor had finished his explanation, answering practical questions about treatment and facilities, but Kate let William speak while her own mind swirled with emotion. When there was a pause, she whispered, and then stated more firmly that she would be okay. She had to be. She had 3 children who needed their mother, a husband who needed his wife, a life she was not finished living. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them. She would fight. She would survive. Yet even as they clung to each other in the cold consultation room, neither knew that the night would bring a discovery more unsettling, something the doctors had not yet shared. Alone later, in the dim glow of the hospital room, William stood by the window, watching the moonlight and the quiet grounds, his reflection ghostly against the glass. The careful composure he had maintained all day cracked as he remembered how he had met Kate at St. Andrew's, the laughter, the small moments that had grown into a life together. He remembered the children, the home she had built, the love that had anchored his world. The weight of the morning pressed on him, and he allowed himself to grieve, to feel fear, to acknowledge how much he relied on her strength. A rustle behind him caught his attention. Kate, exhausted yet alert, had been watching. Without a word, she extended her hand, a silent acknowledgement that she understood his fear because she felt it too. William crossed the room, took her hand in both of his, and sat on the edge of the bed, their fingers intertwined. She traced small circles on his wrist, returning the comfort he had given her earlier. He pressed a kiss to her knuckles, closed his eyes, and breathed in the moment, the quiet truth that she was still here, still fighting. Foreheads touching, they sat together, 2 people facing something terrifying, but refusing to face it alone. Finally, Kate spoke, soft and trembling, carrying the strength of the day's battles. "We're going to get through this. One step at a time." William felt a steady resolve settle inside him, Nothing was easy, but if Kate could face the unknown with such courage, he could match her. They would face it together, and no diagnosis could take that from them.